Isaiah declared, "So shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth. It shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please." But whose mouth was Isaiah speaking of? Yours. Your inner speech is the word of God going forth, and it shall not return void. Every mental conversation you hold with yourself is a decree sent into the invisible realm where all things are possible, and that decree must manifest. You cannot stop it, you can only choose what you decree. Most men decree poverty while desiring wealth. They decree loneliness while seeking love. They speak defeat while praying for victory. Tonight, I will teach you to speak only from the premise of the wish fulfilled, so that your word, your inner speech, accomplishes exactly what you desire. You see, there is something happening inside you right now that you are completely unaware of. A conversation is taking place. Not the loud, worried chatter of your surface mind, but something deeper, more ancient, more powerful. It is the conversation you are having with yourself, about your world, about what is possible and what is not. And I tell you tonight with absolute certainty, this conversation, this inner speech of yours, is the creative power that is shaping every single circumstance of your life. The money in your account, the love you receive or do not receive, the health of your body, the opportunities that come or pass you by, all of it, every last detail, is your inner speech made visible. You are speaking your world into existence moment by moment, and most of you have no idea what words you are using. Why must you listen to what I have to say tonight? Because you are commanding your reality right now and you do not know it. You have been taught that life happens to you, that circumstances are imposed from without, that you must wait for permission, for opportunity, for the right moment. This is the great lie that keeps you in bondage. The truth, the liberating truth, is that you are perpetually issuing commands through your inner speech. Every mental conversation you have with yourself is a decree, a creative word going forth into the unseen substance of imagination where it must take form. You are not a victim of your world, you are the author of it. Now I know what some of you are thinking. You are saying, "But I have been praying, I have been visualizing, I have been affirming, and nothing has changed." In fact, things have gotten worse. And I understand your frustration because I have walked that road myself. But here is what you must understand. Your prayers, your visualizations, your affirmations, they mean nothing if your inner speech contradicts them. You can say, "I want wealth," 1,000 times. But if inwardly you speak from poverty, if your mental conversations are filled with worry about bills, with anxiety about lack, with resignation to limitation, then poverty is what you are decreeing. You can say, "I want love," until your voice goes hoarse. But if inwardly your conversations are those of the rejected, the overlooked, the unworthy, then rejection is what you are commanding into being. Your inner talking is your true prayer. And prayer is not petition. Prayer is not begging some external God to change your circumstances. Prayer is the feeling of the wish fulfilled. What I am going to share with you tonight is not positive thinking. It is not the law of attraction. It is not some watered-down version of spirituality designed to make you feel better temporarily. What I am sharing with you is the mystical truth that your consciousness is God. What you are conscious of being, you must become. And your inner speech, the words you speak to yourself in the privacy of your own mind, is the measure of your consciousness. Change your inner speech and you change your consciousness. Change your consciousness and your entire world must rearrange itself to match. This is law. This is as certain as gravity. And tonight, I am going to show you exactly how to do it. The myth I am exploding tonight is the belief that you must attract something, manifest something, draw something to you from outside yourself. There is nothing outside yourself. Listen to me carefully. Your world is not separate from you. Your world is your consciousness pushed out. The circumstances of your life are your inner talking made audible, made visible, made solid. You are not in a world, you are a world. And the substance of that world is your own wonderful human imagination, expressing itself through your inner speech. Change your inner speech, and the world has no choice but to reflect that change. This is not a theory I am asking you to believe. This is an experience I am inviting you to have. Now let me take you into the mystery of inner talking by way of personal revelation. There was a time, years ago, when I found myself tested, not by circumstance, you understand, but by my own unconscious speech. I was speaking defeat into existence without knowing it. I had a desire, a deep longing for a particular change in my life, and outwardly I would tell myself and others that I believed it would come. I would visualize it, I would imagine it. But then I would notice, in those quiet moments, in those unguarded hours of the day and night, what I was actually saying to myself. And the words were not words of fulfillment, they were words of doubt. Every morning I would wake and immediately begin an inner conversation filled with worry. How will this be resolved? When will things change? Why has it not happened yet? What if it never happens? What if I am fooling myself? And of course nothing changed. How could it? The very tone of my inner speech was the tone of one who does not have, who is waiting, who is still hoping. And then one night, in that sacred interval between waking and sleeping, that thin place where the inner world becomes more real than the outer, I heard it. I heard my own voice speaking to myself. And in that moment of hearing, I became aware. I was literally talking myself into the very condition I claimed to want to escape. I was decreeing my own limitation with every anxious thought, with every worried conversation I was having inside my own skull. This was my awakening. This was the moment when the scales fell from my eyes. Inner speech matures in the dark. From the dark it issues into the light. The circumstances of my life were nothing more than my own inner talking solidified into form. I was the author of my own limitation, not through my actions, but through my unguarded mental conversations with myself. So what did I do? I made a decision. I decided that I would no longer permit myself to speak from the state of lack. I would speak only from the state of fulfillment. And this required something from me. It required vigilance. It required that I observe my inner talking, not with judgment or condemnation, but with simple awareness. Every time I caught myself beginning one of those old conversations, those worried, anxious, doubtful inner dialogues, I would stop. Not by force, not by suppression, but by choice. I would simply redirect my attention and speak to myself differently. I would say inwardly, with feeling, with conviction, "It is done. I am that which I desire to be. I have what I seek." And at first, these words felt hollow. They felt like lies, because I could see with my physical eyes that nothing had changed. The evidence of my senses contradicted my assumption completely. This is where most people fail. They try the new inner speech for a day, perhaps a week, and when they see no immediate change in their circumstances, they conclude it does not work. They return to their habitual worried conversations, their familiar patterns of limitation. But I persisted. I persisted because I understood something that most people do not understand. I understood that the inner world creates the outer world, not the other way around. Let me tell you what those first days were like, because you need to know this. You need to know that transformation is not always immediate or dramatic. Sometimes it is gradual, subtle, quiet. In the beginning, I would catch myself in the old conversation dozens of times a day. I would wake in the morning and within seconds, the worried thoughts would begin. What if this doesn't work? How will this problem be solved? When will I see change? And each time, I would observe. I would witness myself speaking from lack, and then I would choose differently. It is done. I rest in the assumption that my desire is already fulfilled. At first, this felt mechanical. It felt like I was playing a role, pretending, acting as if. And in a sense, I was. But I was not pretending in order to deceive myself. I was assuming in order to create myself anew. There is a profound difference. Pretending says, "This is not true, but I will act as if it is." Assuming says, "This is true in consciousness, and consciousness is the only reality, therefore it is true." Do you see the difference? One is built on a foundation of disbelief. The other is built on a foundation of faith, of understanding, of knowledge of how creation works. And as the days passed, something began to shift. Not in my outer circumstances at first, but in my inner atmosphere. The anxiety began to loosen its grip. The constant tension in my chest, that feeling of waiting, of hoping, of fearing, it began to dissolve. And in its place came something else, a quiet confidence, a peaceful assurance, not based on evidence, not based on change in circumstances, but based on my inner speech, my inner conviction that it was already done in consciousness. I began to feel fulfilled even though nothing visible had changed. And this feeling was the bridge, you see. This feeling was the creative medium through which my desire would manifest. Day after day, night after night, I disciplined my inner speech. And I want you to understand what I mean by discipline, because this is not effort in the way you think of effort. It is not straining or struggling. It is simply choosing. It is being aware of what you are saying to yourself and consciously choosing to say something different. And slowly, something began to shift. Not in my outer world at first, but in my inner world, I began to feel different. The anxiety began to lift. The worry began to dissolve. And in its place came a quiet confidence, a peaceful assurance that all was well, that my desire was already fulfilled in consciousness and must therefore manifest in time. And then, in ways I could not have predicted, in ways I did not plan or force or manipulate, my outer world began to change. Circumstances that had seemed immovable suddenly moved. Doors that had been closed opened. People who had been obstacles became helpers. And the change I desired manifested itself completely and perfectly, exactly as I had spoken it in my inner speech. This is not a story I am telling you to entertain you. This is a testimony. This is my witness to the truth of what I am teaching you tonight. Inner speech is the creative power. It is the word of God going forth from your mouth, from your consciousness, and it shall not return void. Now you might say to me, "But that was your experience. How do I know it will work for me?" And I say to you, it is not my experience alone. It is the experience of everyone who has ever discovered this truth. Let me tell you about another. A woman once came to one of my lectures. She was consumed by a single desire. She wanted to be married. She wanted it more than anything in the world. But here was her affliction, and you must understand this because it is the affliction of so many. Every conversation she had with herself was the conversation of one who is unwanted, passed over, perpetually alone. She would imagine conversations with friends where they pitied her. She would rehearse dialogues with family members where she defended her singleness, where she explained away her aloneness. Her inner speech was a continuous confession of her lack. Every thought about herself was tinged with self-pity, with a sense of being overlooked by life, by love, by God. And of course, she remained alone. How could it be otherwise? She was decreeing her aloneness with every word she spoke to herself. When she came to me, she said, "I have tried everything. I have prayed. I have gone out and met new people. I have worked on myself, but nothing changes. Why am I not loved?" And I said to her, "You are loved exactly as much as you believe yourself to be loved, and you do not believe it at all," she protested. She said, "But I do believe it." I want it so badly. And I said, no, wanting is not believing. Wanting is confessing that you do not have. Tell me, what do you say to yourself when you think about marriage? What conversations do you have in your own mind? And she began to tell me, and as she spoke, she began to hear herself. She heard the tone of her own inner speech, and she realized that she had been speaking as one who is unwanted for so long that it had become her identity. I told her, you must stop speaking as the unmarried woman who hopes to be married. You must speak only as the happily married woman. And she looked at me with confusion and said, but I am not married. How can I speak as though I am? And I said to her what I say to you now. You are not speaking from fact. You are speaking from fulfillment. The fact will conform to your assumption. This is the secret. You do not wait for the outer world to change before you change your inner speech. You change your inner speech, and the outer world has no choice but to conform. This is the law of consciousness. This is the law of assumption. What you assume to be true becomes true. So I gave her a discipline. I said, for the next 30 days, you will not permit yourself to speak inwardly from the state of being unwanted. Every time you catch yourself rehearsing the old conversations, the ones where you are pitied or overlooked or alone, you will stop and revise. You will imagine a different conversation, one that would be natural if you were already married. And she said, what kind of conversation? And I said, imagine a friend calling you and congratulating you on your marriage. Hear her voice, hear the joy in it, hear yourself respond with gratitude and happiness. Imagine your family asking about your husband. Imagine yourself speaking of him with love. Make these conversations real in your imagination. Live in them, feel them, until they become more real to you than the empty apartment you return to every night. She went home, and she began, and the first week was agony for her. Every fiber of her being wanted to return to the old familiar conversations, the ones where she was the victim, the one passed over. But she persisted. Every time she caught herself, she would stop and redirect. She would imagine the conversations of fulfillment. She would hear her friends congratulating her. She would feel the ring on her finger. She would sense the presence of her beloved. And slowly, the feeling began to change. She began to feel married, even though nothing in her outer world had changed. She began to carry herself differently. She began to speak to others differently. Not because she was pretending, but because her inner speech had changed her consciousness, and her consciousness had changed her entire being. Let me tell you what happened in detail, because there are lessons here that will serve you. In the second week, something interesting occurred. She found herself in a social situation where someone asked her, "Are you seeing anyone?" And in the past, she would have felt that familiar pang of shame, that defensive posture. She would have made excuses or changed the subject. But this time, because of her disciplined inner speech, something different happened. She smiled and said simply, "I am in a beautiful place in my life right now." And she meant it. Because in consciousness she was married. In her inner conversations, she was loved and cherished, and that inner reality colored everything she said and did. The third week brought a crisis of faith. She ran into an old friend who was recently engaged, and the old feelings rose up with tremendous force. Jealousy, self-pity, comparison, and her inner speech threatened to collapse back into the old pattern. Why her and not me? When will it be my turn? But she caught herself. She recognized what was happening, and instead of indulging the old conversation, she revised it on the spot. She congratulated her friend with genuine joy, and inwardly she said, "I am so happy for her, and I am equally blessed. I am married in consciousness, and what is true in consciousness must manifest in time." This act of revision in the moment, this choice to maintain her new inner speech even in the face of apparent contradiction, This was the turning point. And then, after 3 weeks of this discipline, something happened that seemed miraculous but was actually inevitable. A man she had known casually for years, someone she had never considered in a romantic way, began to see her differently. He told me later, when they both came to one of my lectures, that something about her had changed. She carried herself with a confidence he had never noticed before. She seemed complete, fulfilled, at peace. And that quality drew him to her like a magnet. He asked her to dinner, and as they spoke, as they shared their lives with each other, something shifted between them. What had been casual friendship became something deeper, richer, more intimate. Within 6 months they were engaged. Within a year they were married. And when she wrote to me to tell me what had happened, she said something I will never forget. She said, "It was not that I attracted him, it was that I became the woman who was already married in consciousness, and he simply recognized what I had become. I did not chase or pursue or manipulate. I simply assumed my desire fulfilled through my inner speech, and the outer world rearranged itself to match my assumption." Do you see what happened? The outer world did not create her inner state. Her inner state created her outer world. She changed her inner speech, and her inner speech changed her consciousness, and her consciousness changed her world. This is the law. This is how it works. And it will work for you in exactly the same way if you will apply it. Now, you might say, "But what if I have tried to change my thoughts before and it did not work?" And I tell you, you were not changing your inner speech. You were trying to cover your inner speech with affirmations, with positive thoughts, but underneath, the old conversation was still running. You must go deeper than surface thoughts. You must go to the level of habitual inner talking, the continuous stream of mental conversation that runs beneath your conscious awareness. That is where the power is. That is where creation happens. Let me give you another story, one that demonstrates the power of inner speech in a different realm of life. A man came to me who was struggling financially. He had a business that was barely surviving, debts that were mounting, and constant anxiety about money. He told me he had tried everything, working longer hours, cutting expenses, seeking new clients, praying for help. But nothing changed. The harder he worked, the worse things seemed to become. And I asked him, "What do you say to yourself about your business? What conversations do you have in your mind about money?" And he began to tell me. And as he spoke, I heard the problem clearly. Every morning when he opened his shop, his inner speech was, "I hope I make enough today to cover expenses. I hope customers come. I need this to work, or I will lose everything." Every time he looked at his bank account, his inner conversation was, "There is not enough. How will I pay these bills? This is never going to work." Every night before sleep, instead of resting in the assumption of success, he was rehearsing failure, imagining worst-case scenarios, speaking to himself from poverty and fear. And I said to him, "You are decreeing poverty with every thought. You are commanding lack with every inner conversation. Your business cannot prosper because you are not prosperous in consciousness." He protested, as many do. "But these are just my worries. These are just thoughts. How can they be creating my reality?" And I explained to him what I am explaining to you now. Thoughts are not just thoughts. Inner speech is not just idle mental chatter. It is the creative power. It is the word going forth. And the word creates. What you speak to yourself inwardly with feeling, with persistence, with habitual repetition, that becomes your experience. You cannot think poverty and experience wealth. You cannot speak lack and manifest abundance. The inner and the outer must match. So I gave him a new inner speech. I said, "Every morning when you open your business, say to yourself with conviction, 'My business is prosperous. Customers are drawn to me. I provide value, and I am rewarded abundantly. Every time you think of money, say to yourself, I am financially secure. Money flows to me easily and consistently. I have more than enough for all my needs and desires. And every night before sleep, instead of worrying, give thanks for your prosperity as though it is already accomplished. He looked at me skeptically. He said, But none of that is true. My business is failing. How can I say these things? And I said, You are not saying them because they are true in the outer world. You are saying them to make them true. You are speaking from the end, from the consciousness of the wish fulfilled, and that consciousness will create the corresponding reality. He went home, and he began. And like the woman seeking marriage, the first days were difficult. His habitual worries would surge up constantly. The evidence of his senses, his mounting bills, his empty cash register, all of it screamed that his new inner speech was a lie. But he persisted. He caught himself in the old conversations and redirected them, again and again, dozens of times a day. My business is prosperous. Customers are drawn to me. I am financially secure. At night, he would lie in bed and instead of rehearsing worst-case scenarios, he would imagine his business thriving. He would see customers coming through the door. He would imagine making deposits at the bank, feeling the satisfaction of abundance, hearing his accountant congratulate him on his success. And then something extraordinary happened. Within 2 weeks, things began to shift. A customer he had not seen in months returned and made a large purchase. Someone left a glowing review online, and new customers began to find him. An unexpected check arrived in the mail from an old debt he had written off as uncollectible. None of these things happened because he worked harder. He was actually working less because he was no longer operating from anxiety and desperation. They happened because his consciousness had changed, his inner speech had changed. And the outer world, which is always obedient to consciousness, had no choice but to rearrange itself to match. Within 3 months, his business had completely turned around. Within 6 months, he had paid off his debts and was saving money. Within a year, he had expanded and hired help. And when he came back to thank me, I said, Do not thank me. Thank your own consciousness. Thank your inner speech. You did this. You changed your inner talking, and your inner talking changed your world. And he said something profound. He said, The strangest thing is that I feel like I was always prosperous. The struggle feels like a dream now, like it happened to someone else, because in my inner speech, I have been prosperous for months, and now my outer world finally matches my inner world. This is what I mean when I say inner speech creates reality. It is not metaphor. It is not philosophy. It is literal truth. What you speak to yourself persistently with feeling becomes your experience. Change the speech and you change the experience. Always. Without exception. Let me tell you something else. Let me tell you about the revision of the past, because this is something that troubles many people. They say, I want to change my future, but I am burdened by my past. I have made mistakes. I have been hurt. I have memories that haunt me, and they believe these memories are fixed, permanent, unchangeable. But I tell you, the past is not fixed. The past is not solid. The past is a mental construction, a story you tell yourself through your inner speech. And you can change that story. You can revise it. You can speak to yourself about your past in a different way, and as you do, the past itself will change its influence over you. It will lose its power. Scripture tells us that Christ was crucified between 2 thieves. Do you know what this means? The 2 thieves are your mental conversations about your past and your future. One thief steals your past by making you rehearse old injuries, old failures, old identities that are no longer true. The other thief steals your future by making you speak from fear, from doubt, from what if. Christ, your awakened imagination, your true self, is crucified between these two thieves, because you will not let the past die, and you will not assume the future is already accomplished. You hang on the cross of time, suffering between memory and hope, when you could simply speak from the Sabbath, from the state of rest where it is finished. When something happens in your day that you do not like, when someone speaks to you harshly or circumstances seem to go against you, you have a choice. You can rehearse it. You can tell the story to yourself over and over, each time reinforcing the hurt, the injustice, the wrongness of it. Or you can revise it. You can go back in your imagination to that moment and change what was said, change what was done, hear what you wish had been said, see what you wish had happened. And as you revise it in your inner speech, as you imagine it differently and feel the satisfaction of the revision, something miraculous happens. The sting is removed. The power of that event over you dissolves. And very often, the person who hurt you will come back to you changed, will speak to you differently, will behave as though the revision you made in your imagination actually happened in their world. I have seen this so many times I cannot count them. A man came to me once and said he was tormented by a conversation he had with his father before his father died. Harsh words had been spoken, and now his father was gone, and the man carried this burden of unfinished, unhealed relationship. And I said to him, "Your father is not gone. Your father lives in your consciousness. And in your consciousness, you can revise that conversation. You can imagine it as you wish it had been. You can hear your father speak words of love and blessing. You can feel the embrace you never had. And as you do this, as you revise your inner speech about this memory, you will find peace." He was skeptical, but he did it. Every night for a week, before he fell asleep, he would imagine that final conversation differently. He would hear his father say, "I love you. I am proud of you." He would feel his father's hand on his shoulder, and by the end of the week the torment was gone. The grief remained, but the torment, the guilt, the burden, it lifted, because he had revised his inner speech about the past, and in revising it, he had healed it. This is the power you have. This is the creative power of your own wonderful human imagination working through your inner speech. You are not bound by the past. You are not limited by what has already happened. You can revise it. You can speak to yourself differently about it. And in doing so, you set yourself free. Now let me take you deeper into the mystical meaning of all this, because what I am teaching you is not technique. It is revelation. It is the unveiling of who you really are. Moses asked God, "Who shall I say sent me?" And the answer came back, "I am that I am. Tell them I am sent you." Now this is not ancient history. This is not some story about a man named Moses who lived thousands of years ago. This is your own consciousness revealing its creative power to you right now. I am is not a name. I am is the feeling of being. It is your awareness that you exist. Before you know what you are, before you know where you are, before you know anything else, you know that you are. I am. This is the foundation. This is the bedrock of all existence. This is God. And whatever you attach to that I am must become your experience. When you say I am poor, you are commanding God, your own awareness of being, to be poor. When you say I am sick, you are decreeing sickness. When you say I am lonely, you are creating loneliness. You are not describing facts. You are creating facts through your inner speech. Do you see? The words that come after I am are not observations. They are commands. They are decrees. They are the creative word going forth. And that word shall not return void. But when you say, I am that which I desire to be, when you attach to your awareness of being the qualities, the states, the conditions you wish to experience, you are doing something profound. You are claiming your divine inheritance. You are speaking as God speaks, from the end, from fulfillment, from the place where it is already done. And this is the only effective command. This is the only way to create. You cannot command something outside yourself to change. There is nothing outside yourself. You can only command yourself to be what you desire to be. And the way you command yourself is through your inner speech. Let me make this very clear, because there is often confusion about what I mean. I do not mean that you should walk around repeating like a parrot, "I am wealthy, I am healthy, I am happy." That is not inner speech. That is surface affirmation. And surface affirmation is powerless if your deeper inner conversation contradicts it. What I mean is this: you must become conscious of being what you desire to be, and you become conscious of it through your inner speech, through the natural, easy conversations you have with yourself all day long. If you desire wealth, you do not repeat, "I am wealthy," mechanically. You speak to yourself as the wealthy would speak. You imagine conversations where your wealth is assumed, where it is taken for granted. You hear yourself discussing investments, planning vacations, giving generously. You feel the ease and security that wealth brings. This is inner speech. This is consciousness. And this is what creates. The revelation of Moses can be understood as three distinct movements. First, I am. This is pure awareness, the knowledge that you exist. Second, I am that. This is the definition of yourself, the claiming of a specific state. And third, I am. This is the cry of victory, the inner conviction that it is done. You move from awareness to definition to realization, and all of it happens in consciousness, through your inner speech. When you catch yourself speaking from lack, from limitation, from unworthiness, you simply return to the first movement. You say to yourself, I am. You feel your existence, your awareness, and then you redefine, I am that which I desire to be. And then you rest in the conviction, I really am. It does not matter what the appearances around you are like. I tell you truly, all things make way for the coming of the Lord. And who is the Lord? You are. I am is the Lord. Your consciousness is the Lord. And you come into your world in the appearance of that which you are conscious of being. All the inhabitants of the earth cannot stay your coming. All the circumstances of your life cannot prevent the manifestation of that which you assume yourself to be. You are the light of the world, crystallizing into the form of your conception of yourself. Consciousness is the eternal light, and it crystallizes only through the medium of your conception of yourself. Change your conception, and you automatically change the world in which you live. Do not try to change other people. Do not try to change circumstances. Change yourself, change your inner speech, and they will change themselves. They must, because they are not separate from you. They are messengers telling you who you are. If you meet hostility, it is because you are hostile toward yourself in your inner speech. If you meet indifference, it is because you are indifferent toward your own value. If you meet love and respect, it is because you speak to yourself with love and respect. Revalue yourself in your inner conversations, and others will confirm the change. They have no choice. They are responding to your consciousness, to your inner speech, to the word that goes forth from your mouth. Now let me help you understand what inner speech actually is, because there is often confusion about this. Your inner speech is not random thought. It is not the occasional daydream or passing worry. Inner speech is the continuous, mostly unconscious stream of mental conversation you have with yourself all day long. It is what you say to yourself, about others, about your world. It is the running commentary, the inner dialogue, the silent conversation that never stops. And here is the revelation. Inner speech is creation in motion. The Bible says, "In the beginning was the Word," but it does not say the Word was spoken aloud. It was the inner word, the silent command of consciousness. Your inner speech is your word, and your word creates your world. Most people are completely unconscious of their inner speech. They are aware of their loud thoughts, their deliberate thinking, but they are unaware of the constant murmur beneath, the habitual conversations they have with themselves that shape their entire experience of life. And because they are unconscious of it, they are unconscious creators. They create by default, by habit, by repetition of old patterns, and then they wonder why their life does not change, why their circumstances remain the same, why their desires do not manifest. It is because their inner speech has not changed. They are still speaking from the old state, the old identity, the old story. But you are going to be different. Starting tonight, you are going to become aware. You are going to observe your inner talking as though you were a curious witness. You are going to catch yourself in the act of creation. And when you do, when you hear what you are saying to yourself, you are going to make a conscious choice. You are going to choose to speak differently. Not with effort, not with strain, but with simple, deliberate choice. This is the beginning of conscious creation. This is the beginning of mastery. Now, I want to teach you something that is absolutely fundamental, something I call the law of identical harvest. Ends run true to origins. This is an absolute law. What you mentally affirm as true of yourself must externalize, not because of some magical cause and effect, but because your inner speech and your outer world are one. They are not two separate things. They are the same thing in different forms. Your inner speech is the cause substance. Your outer world is the effect form, and the effect must always match the cause. It cannot be otherwise. Let me give you a metaphor that will make this clear. Imagine your consciousness as a garden. Your inner speech is the seeds you plant, and your outer world is the harvest you reap. Now, if you plant seeds of poverty, of lack, of limitation, what will grow? You will harvest poverty, lack, and limitation. Not because the universe is punishing you, not because you are unlucky, but because seeds produce after their kind. This is natural law. If you plant corn, you harvest corn. You do not harvest wheat. You do not harvest tomatoes. The seed determines the harvest absolutely. And here is what most people do not understand. You are planting seeds every single moment through your inner speech, every conversation you have with yourself, every mental comment you make about yourself or your life, every habitual thought pattern you repeat. These are seeds, and they are growing. Right now, as I speak to you, they are growing in the invisible realm of consciousness, and they will inevitably produce a visible harvest in your world. If you do not like your current harvest, do not try to change the harvest. Change the seeds. Change your inner speech. Plant new seeds by speaking from fulfillment, from abundance, from the wish already accomplished. The mistake people make is they look at their current harvest and they base their inner speech on what they see. They see poverty, so they speak from poverty. They see illness, so they speak from illness. They see loneliness, so they speak from loneliness. And in doing so, they simply plant more of the same seeds, ensuring that tomorrow's harvest will be identical to today's. This is why people feel stuck, trapped in repeating patterns. They are unknowingly sowing the same seeds over and over through unconscious, habitual inner speech. But when you understand this law, when you grasp that your inner speech is the seed and your outer world is the harvest, everything changes. You stop basing your inner speech on your current circumstances. You base it on your desired circumstances. You plant the seeds of what you want to experience, regardless of what you are currently experiencing. You speak from health even when the body shows symptoms. You speak from wealth even when the bank account shows lack. You speak from love even when you feel alone. You are planting new seeds, and those seeds must grow, must mature, must produce their identical harvest. I have watched this law operate with absolute precision for decades. I have never seen it fail, not once. Every person who changes their inner speech and persists in that change experiences a corresponding change in their outer world. Always. The timing may vary. The manner of fulfillment may surprise you, but the law itself never fails. Identical seeds produce identical harvests. Change the seed of your inner speech, and you change the harvest of your life. If you plant a seed of corn, you will harvest corn. You will not harvest wheat. You will not harvest tomatoes. The seed determines the harvest, and your inner speech is the seed. If you speak to yourself from poverty, from lack, from limitation, you will harvest poverty, lack, and limitation. If you speak to yourself from wealth, from abundance, from possibility, you will harvest wealth, abundance, and possibility. The harvest is always identical to the seed. This is why your life is exactly what it is. It is the perfect, precise harvest of your inner speech. If you do not like your harvest, change your seed. Change what you are saying to yourself. And here is something else you must understand. When your inner speech matches your desire, there is no uncertainty. There is no maybe, no I hope, no if it is meant to be. There is only certainty. When you speak from the end, when your inner conversations are the conversations of one who already has what they desire, you feel a quiet confidence, an unshakable assurance. This is the feeling of fulfillment. This is the state of the wish already accomplished in consciousness. And from this state, manifestation is inevitable. It is certain. It is only a matter of time before what is true in consciousness becomes visible in form. But when your inner speech contradicts your desire, when you say you want one thing but inwardly speak from the opposite, you create confusion, you create delay, you create what appears to be resistance or blockage. But there is no resistance, there is no blockage, there is only contradiction. You are sending out two commands at once, and the universe, consciousness, imagination, whatever you want to call it, does not know which to obey, or rather, it obeys the stronger, more persistent command. And the stronger command is always the habitual inner speech, not the occasional affirmation or visualization. This is why people fail when they try to manifest their desires. They do a visualization exercise for 10 minutes in the morning, and then they spend the rest of the day speaking inwardly from the opposite state. They affirm, I am wealthy for a few moments, and then they spend hours worrying about money, complaining about bills, feeling resentful toward those who have more, and they wonder why nothing changes. It is because their habitual inner speech, their continuous mental conversation, is the opposite of what they desire. And the habitual always wins, the persistent always dominates. You cannot overcome 23 hours of negative inner speech with 1 hour of positive affirmation. You must change the habitual. You must change what you continuously say to yourself. But do not think this is difficult. Do not think it requires superhuman effort. It does not. It requires only awareness and choice. And this is what I want to teach you now. I do not ask you to strain or struggle. I do not ask you to suppress or deny your thoughts. I ask you only to observe. Observe your inner talking as though you were a curious witness. What are you saying to yourself right now? What conversations are you rehearsing? When you think of your desire, do you speak as one who has it or one who wants it? Do you speak from fulfillment or from lack? Just observe. Do not judge. Do not condemn. Just notice. This uncritical self-observation will reveal to you where you are in the inner world, and where you are in the inner world is what you must be in the outer world. If your inner speech is the speech of lack, you will live in lack. If your inner speech is the speech of fulfillment, you must live in fulfillment. The inner and the outer are one. They mirror each other perfectly. And when you observe your inner speech, when you become aware of it, you suddenly have a choice you did not have before. You can choose to redirect it. You can choose to speak differently. Let me teach you how to begin this practice of observation. Tomorrow morning, from the moment you wake until you have your breakfast, simply notice your inner speech. Do not try to change it yet. Just notice it. Listen to what you are saying to yourself. Are you saying, "I'm so tired. I don't want to get up. I have so much to do. This day is going to be difficult"? Or are you saying, "I am grateful for this day. I am energized and ready. Good things are coming to me today"? Just notice. Listen to the tone, the content, the feeling behind your words. Then, in the afternoon, do it again. Pick an hour and simply observe. What are you saying to yourself about your work, your relationships, your body, your life? Are you criticizing, complaining, worrying? Or are you appreciating, affirming, trusting? Do not judge what you find. This is crucial. If you discover that your inner speech is predominantly negative, do not feel guilty or discouraged. You are simply becoming aware of what has been unconscious, and awareness is the first step to change. Do this for a few days. Just observe, and you will be astonished at what you discover. Most people, when they first begin to observe their inner speech, are shocked by how negative, how critical, how fearful their habitual inner conversations are. They had no idea. They thought they were positive people because they smiled, because they said positive things to others. But inwardly, secretly, they were speaking defeat, limitation, unworthiness, fear. And now they understand why their life has been the way it has been. Their inner speech was creating it all. But here is the beautiful thing. The moment you become aware, you can choose differently. You do not have to continue the old pattern. The very act of noticing gives you power over it. When you catch yourself in a negative inner conversation, you can stop mid-sentence and redirect. You can say, "Wait, that is not what I choose to speak. Let me say this instead." And you consciously choose a different inner speech, one that matches your desire rather than your current reality. This is not suppression. You are not pushing down negative thoughts and pretending they do not exist. You are simply choosing not to give them your attention, your energy, your creative power. You are withdrawing your agreement from them. You are saying, "That may be what my habitual pattern wants to say, but it is not what I choose to affirm as truth. I choose a different truth." And you redirect your inner speech to match the state you wish to experience. At first, you may have to do this constantly. Every few minutes, you may find yourself slipping back into the old pattern. That is normal. That is to be expected. Your habitual inner speech has been forming for years, perhaps decades. It will not change overnight simply because you decide it should. But with persistence, with conscious redirection, with patient awareness, the new pattern will establish itself. The new inner speech will become natural. And when it does, when it becomes your automatic, habitual way of speaking to yourself, your world must change. It has no choice. Let me give you an example. Suppose you desire a new position, a better job, more fulfilling work, and you have been affirming, visualizing, trying to manifest this desire, but nothing is happening. So you begin to observe your inner speech, and you notice that every day, as you go to your current job, you are having a conversation with yourself. You are saying, "I hate this place. I am stuck here. Nobody appreciates me. I will never get out. You are rehearsing your dissatisfaction, your resentment, your feeling of being trapped. And this inner speech is creating the very reality you are trying to escape. You are decreeing your stuckness with every thought. So, what do? You do not fight these thoughts. You do not try to suppress them. You simply become aware of them, and then you consciously redirect. You say to yourself, I am grateful for where I am, and I am moving towards something better. I am valued. I am appreciated. I am in the perfect position for my next step. And at first, these words will feel false. They will feel like lies, because your outer circumstances have not changed, but you persist. You observe and redirect, and slowly, imperceptibly, your inner speech begins to change. And as your inner speech changes, your feeling changes. And as your feeling changes, your state of consciousness changes. And as your state changes, your outer world must change. It cannot do otherwise. This is law. Let me give you another scenario. Suppose you have a difficult relationship, perhaps with a family member or a colleague. Every time you think of this person, your inner speech is filled with resentment, criticism, judgment. They always do this. They never change. They make my life difficult. And every time you have this inner conversation, you are creating more of the same. You are decreeing that this person will continue to behave in ways that upset you, because your consciousness of them determines how they show up in your world. They are not acting independently of your consciousness. They are reflecting your assumptions about them. So you change your inner speech about them. Instead of rehearsing their faults and your grievances, you speak to yourself differently. This person is changing. They are treating me with respect and kindness. Our relationship is harmonious and peaceful. At first, this will feel absurd, especially if you have years of evidence to the contrary. But remember, you are not speaking from evidence. You are speaking from desire, from the end, from the assumption of what you want to be true. And as you persist in this new inner speech, something remarkable happens. They begin to change, or more accurately, your perception of them changes, which is the same thing, because there is no them apart from your consciousness of them. They exist in your world only as you conceive them. Change your conception through your inner speech, and they must change. I have seen this countless times. A woman came to me who was in conflict with her mother. Years of tension, misunderstanding, painful patterns, and I taught her to change her inner speech about her mother. Every time she caught herself thinking or saying critical things about her mother, she would stop and revise. My mother loves me. She shows me kindness and understanding. Our relationship is healing and beautiful. She practiced this for several weeks, and then she visited her mother, and she was astonished. Her mother was different, warmer, more open, more loving. Or perhaps her mother was the same, but the daughter's consciousness had changed, and therefore her experience of her mother had changed. Either way, the result was the same, a healed relationship, because she changed her inner speech. Or consider the area of creative work, artistic expression, business ventures. So many people carry inner speech that sabotages their success. I'm not talented enough. Nobody will appreciate my work. The market is too competitive. I will probably fail. And then they wonder why their efforts do not succeed. They have decreed failure through their inner speech. They have commanded the universe to confirm their lack of talent, to withhold appreciation, to create insurmountable competition. But when you change your inner speech in this area, when you say to yourself, I am talented, my work is valuable, people appreciate what I create, success comes easily to me, and you persist in this inner speech despite all evidence to the contrary, your experience must change. Opportunities will appear. People will respond positively to your work. The path will open. Not because you got lucky, not because circumstances magically shifted, but because your consciousness shifted, and consciousness creates reality. A man came to me who was trying to start a business. He had tried multiple times and failed each time. And when I asked him about his inner speech, he said, "I believe in this business idea, but I also worry that I don't have what it takes to succeed. I see other people succeeding and I wonder why not me. Maybe I'm just not meant to be an entrepreneur." And there it was. His inner speech was full of doubt, comparison, self-questioning. He was commanding his business to fail, even as he worked to make it succeed. So I taught him to change his inner speech. I am a successful entrepreneur. My business thrives. I have everything I need to succeed. Money and opportunities flow to me easily. He practiced this inner speech for months, and gradually his business began to turn around. Not because the market changed or because he suddenly got smarter or worked harder, because his consciousness changed, his inner speech changed, and reality conformed to that change. This is not pretending. This is not lying to yourself. This is claiming your truth from a higher level of consciousness. You are not affirming what is true in the outer world. You are affirming what is true in consciousness, and you are allowing the outer world to conform to it. This is the difference between magic and law. Magic tries to change the outer to match the inner. Law changes the inner and allows the outer to follow. You are working with law, not magic. Now let me teach you how to construct the right inner speech, because this is where many people go wrong. They think inner speech means repeating affirmations mechanically, but that is not what I mean at all. The right inner speech is natural, it is easy, it flows. It is the speech you would naturally have if your desire were already fulfilled. Let me give you a technique. Take your desire and reduce it to a single sentence, a short, simple declaration that implies your desire is already accomplished. Not "I will be, but I am," not "I want, but I have," not "it is coming, but it is done." For example, if you desire financial security, do not say "I will be wealthy someday." Say "I am secure. I have a steady, dependable income, consistent with integrity and mutual benefit." If you desire health, say "I am well, I am whole. My body is strong and vital." If you desire love, say "I am loved. I am in a beautiful, fulfilling relationship." If you desire success in your work, say "I am recognized. I am valued. My work is making a difference." The sentence must be simple, brief, and stated in the present tense as though it is already true. And here is the key. The sentence must feel natural to you. It must roll off your inner tongue with ease. It cannot feel forced or false or ridiculous. If it does, revise it. Find words that feel true to you, words that resonate with you, words that you can easily believe, because belief is not mental agreement. Belief is the feeling of naturalness. When something feels natural, you believe it. When it feels forced, you do not. So construct your sentence carefully, play with the words until they feel right. And then, here is the secret. You must repeat this sentence to yourself until you are inwardly affected by it. Not once or twice, but over and over, until the feeling of the wish fulfilled possesses you, until you feel satisfied, until you feel relief, until you feel the quiet confidence that it is done. This is the work, this is the practice. You are not trying to convince yourself intellectually. You are trying to saturate your consciousness with the feeling of the wish fulfilled. And you do that through repetition, through frequency, through persistence. And this brings me to another crucial principle, the principle of frequency. It is not the length of time you spend in the feeling of the wish fulfilled that matters. It is the frequency. The oftener you do it, the more natural it becomes. That to which you constantly return constitutes your truest self. If you return to worry 100 times a day, you are worry. If you return to fulfillment 100 times a day, you are fulfillment. The habit determines the reality. The persistent determines the outcome. So your task is to make your desired state a habit. You do that by returning to it frequently, by choosing it again and again throughout your day. Every time you catch yourself speaking from the old state, you simply redirect to the new state. You do not condemn yourself. You do not feel guilty. You simply choose again. It is like training a muscle. At first it is difficult. It requires conscious effort. But the more you do it, the easier it becomes, and eventually the new inner speech becomes automatic. It becomes your default. It becomes who you are. And when that happens, when your new inner speech becomes habitual, manifestation is inevitable. The outer world must conform. It has no choice. Now let me connect this to imagination, because your imagination and your inner speech are not two separate things. They are one. Your imagination is Christ, the creative power within you, and your inner speech is the voice of that power. When you imagine the wish fulfilled, your inner speech automatically matches that imaginal act. You hear congratulations. You hear confirmation. You hear the conversations that would be yours were your desire already objectified. Imagination without inner speech is fantasy. Inner speech without imagination is empty words. But when they work together, when you imagine and speak from the same fulfilled state, you are creating with the full power of consciousness. So, I teach you to do both. Imagine your desire fulfilled. See it, feel it, experience it in your imagination as vividly as you can. And as you imagine, notice what you are saying to yourself. Notice the inner conversations that arise naturally from that imagined state. Those conversations, those words, that is your true inner speech. That is what you want to make habitual. You are not making up artificial affirmations. You are discovering the natural speech of the fulfilled state and adopting it as your own. For instance, if you desire a new home, do not just see the house in your imagination. Imagine yourself there, living in it, and notice what you would naturally say to yourself. You might say, "I love this kitchen. The light is perfect here. I am so grateful for this space." You might imagine a friend visiting and you saying, "Let me show you around. We have been so happy here." These are natural inner conversations arising from the imagined fulfilled state. This is the inner speech you want to cultivate. Not forced affirmations, but natural speech that matches your imaginal activity. And here is something beautiful. The more you do this, the more you unite imagination and inner speech in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, the less effort it requires. At first, you must consciously imagine and consciously redirect your inner speech. But over time, they begin to work together automatically. You think of your desire, and you automatically imagine it fulfilled, and you automatically speak from that fulfillment. It becomes your nature. And when it becomes your nature, it must become your experience. This is the promise. This is the law. Now let me teach you about revision, because this is a powerful tool that many overlook. If you catch yourself speaking from the old state, from lack, from fear, from unworthiness, do not despair. Do not condemn yourself. Simply revise. Stop the conversation mid-sentence if you must, and replace it with the conversation of fulfillment. This act of revision is an act of creation. You are literally rewriting the script of your consciousness in the moment. And as you rewrite your inner speech, you rewrite your destiny. Let me give you a practical example. Suppose you have a difficult interaction with someone during your day. They speak harshly to you or dismiss you or treat you with disrespect. And your first impulse is to replay that interaction in your mind, to rehearse what they said, to feel the hurt or anger or injustice of it. And if you do that, If you replay it in your inner speech, you are solidifying that experience. You are making it more real. You are decreeing that this is the kind of experience you have with this person. But you have another choice. You can revise it. As soon as you become aware that you are replaying the negative interaction, stop. Go back in your imagination to that moment and hear the conversation differently. Hear the person speak to you with kindness, with respect, with appreciation. Hear yourself respond with confidence and grace. Feel the satisfaction of the revised interaction, and then let it go. Do not return to the original version. Keep the revised version as your truth. And you will be astonished to discover that the next time you interact with this person, they will behave differently toward you. They will speak to you as though the revision actually happened. Because in consciousness, it did happen. And consciousness creates reality. This is not wishful thinking. This is not denial. This is conscious creation. You are choosing what to make real in your consciousness through your inner speech. And what is real in your consciousness must become real in your experience. Use revision every day. Revise everything that does not please you. Revise every conversation, every interaction, every circumstance that does not match your desire, and you will find that your world begins to change in the most miraculous ways. Now let me give you specific practices, practical steps you can take tonight and every night hereafter. The first and most important practice is what I call the nightly discipline. Every night, before you fall asleep, you are going to do this. You are going to construct your sentence, the one that implies your wish fulfilled. And you are going to use the transition from waking to sleeping as your creative moment. This is the most powerful time, because in this state, the barrier between conscious and subconscious dissolves. What you impress upon your consciousness in this state will be accepted and will manifest. Here is what you do. Lie down in your bed, make yourself comfortable, close your eyes, and relax your body completely. Feel yourself becoming drowsy, heavy, relaxed. You are not trying to fall asleep immediately. You are trying to reach that passive, receptive state where you are still conscious but deeply relaxed. This is the state of imaginal activity. And in this state, you begin to repeat your sentence silently to yourself, not mechanically, not like a recording, but with feeling. I am secure. I am loved. I am whole. Whatever your sentence is, repeat it with the feeling that it is true. Feel the satisfaction of it. Feel the relief of it. Feel the joy of it. And as you repeat it, imagine a scene that implies the wish fulfilled. If your sentence is, I am secure, imagine checking your bank account and seeing abundance. Or imagine a friend congratulating you on your success. Or imagine yourself making a generous donation to a cause you care about. Make the imaginal scene brief and simple, something that would naturally occur if your desire were fulfilled. And as you imagine it, continue your inner speech. Hear the conversations that would accompany that scene. Hear yourself being congratulated. Hear yourself expressing gratitude. Make it real in your imagination. Do this for as long as you can maintain attention. It might be only a few minutes at first. That is fine. The important thing is not the duration, but the intensity. You want to reach a point where you feel satisfied, where you feel that inner click of it is done. And then, while you are in that feeling, let yourself drift off to sleep. Fall asleep in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. This is crucial because the last state you occupy before sleep is the state that will dominate your entire night of sleep. And sleep is when the subconscious does its deepest work of creation. Fall asleep in fulfillment and you will wake up closer to your desire manifest. Let me give you more specific guidance because the quality of your nightly discipline will determine the speed of your manifestation. First, understand that the drowsy state is crucial. You are aiming for what I call the border between waking and sleeping, that hypnagogic state where the conscious mind loosens its grip and the subconscious becomes more receptive. In this state, what you impress upon consciousness goes deep, bypassing the critical faculty that would normally say, "This is not true, this is just imagination." To reach this state more effectively, you can do the following. As you lie in bed, take several deep, slow breaths. With each exhale, feel your body becoming heavier, sinking into the mattress. Feel your arms and legs becoming so heavy that you have no desire to move them. Feel a pleasant numbness spreading through your limbs. You are still fully conscious, but your body is entering a state of deep relaxation that mimics sleep. This is the ideal state for impressing your desire upon consciousness. Now, regarding your sentence, it should be short enough that you can easily remember it and repeat it effortlessly. Somewhere between 5 and 15 words is ideal, and it should be phrased in a way that implies your desire is already accomplished, not that you are trying to accomplish it. I am, rather than I will be. I have, rather than I want. Thank you for, rather than please give me. The feeling of already having is what you are cultivating. As for the imaginal scene, keep it simple and brief. Do not try to imagine a long, complex scenario with many details. Choose one simple moment that would naturally occur if your desire were already fulfilled. For instance, if you desire a new home, do not try to imagine the entire process of searching, buying, moving. Simply imagine yourself sitting in one room of that home, feeling the satisfaction of being there, perhaps running your hand along a piece of furniture and thinking, "I love this place." Or imagine a friend visiting and saying, "Your home is beautiful." Choose one brief, simple moment that implies fulfillment. And here is something important. If you find that you cannot maintain the imaginal scene, if your mind wanders or you lose focus, do not worry. Simply return to your sentence. Keep repeating your sentence with feeling, and let any images that arise naturally accompany it. Some nights the imaginal activity will be vivid and strong. Other nights it will be vague or fleeting. Both are fine. The key is the feeling, not the vividness of the image. You are trying to feel fulfilled, not to create a perfect mental movie. As you practice this night after night, you will develop a skill for it. The state will become easier to reach. The feeling will become more accessible, and you will notice something remarkable. You will begin to feel differently during your waking hours. The inner speech of fulfillment that you cultivate at night will begin to bleed into your day. You will catch yourself spontaneously thinking and speaking from the end, from the accomplished state, without effort. This is the sign that your consciousness is changing, that the new pattern is establishing itself. Some nights you will fall asleep quickly, within minutes of beginning the practice. Other nights you may lie there for 20 or 30 minutes, repeating your sentence and imagining. Both are fine. Do not be concerned with how long it takes. Be concerned only with the quality of the feeling. You want to saturate yourself with the feeling of the wish fulfilled before you drift off. You want it to be the last thing on your mind, in your heart, in your consciousness as you cross the threshold into sleep. And do not be discouraged if some nights you fall asleep before you feel fully satisfied, before you reach that sense of inner conviction. This is a practice, a discipline. Some nights will be more successful than others. The important thing is consistency. Do it every single night without fail. Make it as much a part of your routine as brushing your teeth. This nightly discipline is your creative act. It is your deliberate planting of seeds in consciousness. And if you persist, if you do this night after night for weeks or months, you will see changes in your world that will astonish you. Do this every night without fail. Make it your sacred practice, and you will begin to see changes, subtle at first, then more obvious, then undeniable. Your outer world will begin to reflect your inner speech. Circumstances will shift, people will change, opportunities will appear, and you will know that you are the creator of your experience, that your inner speech is the word of God going forth and accomplishing that which you please. The second practice I give you is for your waking hours. During the day, practice mental conversations from the end. This means that whenever you think of your desire, you do not think of it as something you are trying to get. You think from it as something you already have. You imagine the conversations you would have with others if your desire were already realized. Hear them congratulate you. Hear yourself thanking them. Hear yourself speaking naturally about your accomplished desire. For example, if you desire a new position at work, do not imagine yourself in an interview hoping to get the job. Imagine yourself already in the position. Imagine a colleague asking you how you are enjoying the new role. Hear yourself saying, "It is wonderful. I am so grateful for this opportunity. The work is exactly what I hoped for." Imagine your family celebrating with you. Hear them saying, "We are so proud of you. You deserve this." Hear yourself calling a friend to share the news, and hear the excitement in their voice. Make these conversations real in your imagination. Feel them, experience them, and your inner speech will naturally align with these imagined conversations. Or suppose you desire healing, wellness in your body. Do not imagine yourself at the doctor receiving a diagnosis or treatment. Imagine yourself already well, vibrant, strong. Imagine someone commenting on how healthy you look. Hear yourself saying, "I feel better than I have in years. My body is strong and vital." Imagine yourself engaging in activities that health makes possible: running, dancing, playing with children, whatever represents wellness to you. And hear the inner conversations that accompany these activities. "I am so grateful for this energy. My body serves me beautifully." If you desire a romantic relationship, imagine yourself already in that relationship. Hear your beloved saying, "I love you. I'm so happy we found each other." Hear yourself introducing them to a friend. "This is the person I've been telling you about." Imagine conversations where you discuss your future together, where you make plans, where you express appreciation for each other. Make it feel natural, easy, real. Not as fantasy, but as assumed reality in consciousness. If you desire financial abundance, imagine conversations that would only occur if you were already prosperous. Hear your accountant congratulating you on wise investments. Imagine yourself discussing a charitable donation with an organization you support. Hear a family member saying, "You've done so well for yourself." Imagine yourself calmly paying bills, feeling no stress, no anxiety, just the quiet confidence of sufficiency and abundance. The key to this practice is that you are not wishing or hoping. You are not saying, "I hope this conversation happens someday." You are having the conversation now in imagination as though it is already happening, as though your desire is already fulfilled. And these are the natural conversations that arise from that fulfillment. This is thinking from the end, not thinking of the end. This is living in the accomplished state in consciousness, and consciousness is the only reality. Do this throughout your day. Whenever your mind wanders to your desire, redirect it to these conversations of fulfillment. At first, you will have to do this deliberately, consciously. You will catch yourself thinking of your desire from lack, from want, from "I don't have this yet," and you will have to stop and redirect to "I already have this." And here is the conversation I'm having because I have it. But with practice, with repetition, this way of thinking will become automatic. You will spontaneously think from the end without effort. And when that happens, when your habitual inner speech is the speech of the accomplished desire, manifestation is inevitable and imminent. You are not waiting for your desire. You are living in it now, in imagination, through your inner speech. And what you live in imagination must manifest in fact. This is the law of consciousness. This is the creative process. The third practice is the morning reset. Each morning when you wake, before you engage with the world, check your inner speech. What is the first conversation you have with yourself? Is it worry? Complaint? Doubt? If so, stop. Revise. Speak only from the consciousness of the wish fulfilled. Begin your day as though you are already that which you desire to be. Say to yourself, "Today I walk in fulfillment. Today I speak from the end. Today I am that which I desire to be." Set your inner speech first thing in the morning and it will carry you through the day. I have found that the first few minutes after waking are crucial. The consciousness you establish in those first moments will tend to persist throughout the day. So do not reach for your phone. Do not jump immediately into the concerns of the day. Take a moment, check your inner speech, set your intention, claim your state, and then move through your day from that place of conscious creation. The fourth practice is the inner decree. Throughout your day, whenever you catch yourself in unconscious inner talking, the kind that reinforces limitation, simply say to yourself, "I am that I am." This is the reset. This is the return to creative power. It reminds you that you are not the limited creature you have been speaking yourself into being. You are the unlimited I am, the consciousness that creates. And from that place, you can choose any state, assume any identity, decree any outcome. So when worry arises, when doubt creeps in, when old patterns of thought begin to play, you say, "I am." You feel your existence, your awareness, and then you choose, "I am that which I desire to be." You redefine yourself consciously, and then you rest in that definition. I really am. You claim it with conviction. This simple practice, repeated throughout your day, will keep you anchored in conscious creation. It will prevent you from slipping back into unconscious, habitual inner talking that creates by default. Now, I want to address something that concerns many people. They ask, "How long will it take? How long must I practice this before I see results?" And I tell you, the question itself reveals the problem. When you ask, "How long?" you are speaking from the state of not having. You are confessing that you do not yet believe. Because if you truly assumed your desire fulfilled, if your inner speech truly matched the wish accomplished, you would not be asking how long. You would simply be living from the end, knowing that what is true in consciousness must manifest in time. But I understand the question comes from human impatience, from the desire for evidence, for proof. So I will tell you this: you will see changes as soon as your inner speech actually changes. Not when you think it has changed, but when it truly has changed at the level of habitual consciousness. For some, this happens quickly, within days or weeks. For others, it takes longer, because their habitual patterns are more deeply entrenched. But it will happen, it must happen, because this is law. Let me tell you about persistence through the story of a woman who came to me with a health condition. She had been diagnosed with a chronic illness, and the doctors told her she would have to manage it for the rest of her life. There was no cure, they said, only treatment, medication, adaptation. And she believed them. Her inner speech was entirely built around being sick. "I am ill. I have this condition. I will always have to deal with this." Every conversation she had with herself reinforced her identity as a sick person. And, of course, the condition persisted. The medications helped manage symptoms, but the underlying condition remained. When she came to me, she was desperate. She had heard me speak about consciousness, creating reality, and she asked, "Can I heal myself through my inner speech?" And I said, "You are already creating yourself through your inner speech. You are creating yourself as someone with this condition. If you change your inner speech, you will create yourself differently, she said. But the doctors say it is incurable. And I said, the doctors know what they know. But they do not know the creative power of consciousness. They do not know that your inner speech is commanding your body to express this illness. Change the command, and the body must obey. So I taught her. I said, you must stop speaking of yourself as ill. You must stop identifying with this condition. Every time you catch yourself saying or thinking, I am sick or I have this disease, you must stop and revise. Say instead, I am well, I am whole. My body is healing perfectly, she said, but I feel the symptoms. How can I say I am well when I clearly am not? And I explained what I have explained to you. You are not denying the symptoms. You are denying them the power to define you. You are choosing a different definition based not on current fact but on desired reality. And that desired reality, held firmly in consciousness through your inner speech, will become fact. She went home and she began. And the first month was perhaps the most difficult of her life. The symptoms did not disappear. In fact, at times they seemed to intensify. And her mind screamed at her that this was foolish, that she was denying reality, that she should just accept her condition and stop fighting it. But she persisted. Every single time the old inner speech arose, I am sick, this is my reality, I will always have this. She would stop and redirect. I am well, my body is whole, I am perfectly healthy. She practiced the nightly discipline I taught her. Every night before sleep, she would relax into that drowsy state and repeat to herself, I am healthy, I am well, my body is strong and vital. She would imagine a scene of herself doing something that health would make possible: hiking, dancing, simply waking up feeling wonderful. And she would fall asleep in that feeling of wellness. During the day, whenever someone asked about her condition, instead of launching into the long story of her illness, she would simply say, I am doing very well, thank you. And inwardly, she would affirm, I am perfectly healthy. When she went to the doctor, instead of identifying with the diagnosis, she would silently say to herself, this is not who I am. I am well, I am whole. For the first 2 months, nothing seemed to change. The symptoms persisted. The condition showed no improvement according to medical tests. But something was changing in her. Her attitude shifted. She no longer felt like a victim of her illness. She felt empowered, like she was doing something, creating something new through her disciplined inner speech. And gradually, subtly, she began to feel better. Not just emotionally, but physically. Small improvements at first, a bit more energy, a bit less pain. Symptoms that were less frequent or less severe. By the 4th month, the changes were undeniable. She had more good days than bad days. She was able to reduce her medication with her doctor's supervision. She was doing things she had not been able to do in years. And by the 8th month, when she went for her routine checkup, the doctors were astonished. The markers for her condition had improved dramatically. They called it spontaneous remission. They said she was one of the rare cases. They could not explain it, but she knew. She had changed her inner speech. She had stopped commanding her body to be sick and started commanding it to be well. And her body, obedient to consciousness, had responded. When she came to thank me, I said what I always say, you did this. Your consciousness created this healing. Your persistent inner speech of wellness overcame the habitual inner speech of illness. You spoke to yourself from the end, from the assumption of perfect health, and your body had no choice but to conform to that assumption. And she said something I will never forget. She said, the hardest part was persisting when nothing seemed to be changing. But I realize now that everything was changing. It was changing in consciousness first, and then it manifested in my body. If I had given up after a few weeks, I would still be sick. Persistence was everything. This is what I mean by persistence. This is what James meant when he wrote, "Man ought always to pray and not to faint." To pray means to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. To faint means to give up, to doubt, to return to the old state. So pray continuously through your inner speech. Assume continuously. Live in the end continuously. And do not faint. Do not let appearances discourage you. Do not let delay convince you it is not working. It is working. The moment you change your inner speech, the wheels of creation begin to turn, and they will not stop until the manifestation is complete. The key is persistence. Persist in the assumption of the wish fulfilled. Persist in the inner speech of fulfillment. Do not waver. Do not doubt. Do not look at outer circumstances and let them dictate your inner speech. You are the creator. You are the one who commands. Outer circumstances are the effect. They must obey your command. But they will not obey a half-hearted command. They will not obey an occasional affirmation surrounded by continuous doubt. They will obey only persistent assumption, continuous inner speech that matches the wish fulfilled. James said, "Man ought always to pray and not to faint." To pray means to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. To faint means to give up, to doubt, to return to the old state. So pray continuously through your inner speech. Assume continuously, live in the end continuously, and do not faint. Do not let appearances discourage you. Do not let delay convince you it is not working. It is working. The moment you change your inner speech, the wheels of creation begin to turn, and they will not stop until the manifestation is complete. You have been given the secret tonight. Not a technique, but a revelation. Your inner speech is your creative power. The unseen world is not separate from you. It is not something you must persuade or manipulate or attract. It is obedient to you. It rushes to fulfill the commands you issue through your mental conversations with yourself. And those commands are effective not when you speak them aloud, not when you write them down, not when you share them with others, but when you speak them to yourself in the privacy of your own consciousness with the feeling that they are already true. Let me tell you what has happened here tonight. You came into this lecture perhaps believing that you had to chase your desire, manipulate circumstances, convince others, work harder, be better, prove yourself worthy, and now you know the truth. You need only convince yourself. You need only change your inner talking. You need only speak to yourself from the state of the wish fulfilled. And the whole vast world, with all its complexity, with all its seeming solidity, will rearrange itself to reflect that change. This is not magic. This is not wishful thinking. This is law. This is the creative process by which consciousness becomes form. You are not broken. You have never been broken. You have simply been speaking to yourself from the wrong state. You have been decreeing limitation while desiring expansion. You have been commanding lack while seeking abundance. You have been affirming unworthiness while longing for love. And now you know better. From this moment forward, speak only as the one who already is, who already has, who already lives in the fulfilled wish. Your word, your inner speech, shall not return void. It must accomplish that which you have spoken. It must prosper in the thing whereto you have sent it. I want you to understand something deeply. What I have shared with you tonight is not new. It is ancient. It is the secret that has been taught by every mystic, every awakened soul, every true teacher throughout history. It is the pearl of great price. It is the kingdom of heaven within you. It is your divine inheritance, and it has been waiting for you to discover it, to claim it, to use it. You are not learning something foreign to you. You are remembering something you have always known at the deepest level of your being. You are consciousness. You are the creator. You are I am. And what you decree with your inner speech must come to pass. Think about what this means for your life. Every limitation you have experienced, every disappointment, every failure, every lack, it all came from unconscious inner speech. You were creating by default, by habit, by repetition of old patterns you did not even know you had. But that ends tonight. Tonight you become a conscious creator. Tonight you take command of your inner speech and therefore take command of your life. You are no longer at the mercy of circumstances, of other people, of luck or fate or chance. You are the creator, and you create through your inner speech. Tomorrow morning, when you wake, you will have a choice. You can return to the old habit of unconscious inner talking, letting your mind run wherever it wants, speaking to yourself from doubt and fear and limitation. Or you can choose consciously. You can observe your inner speech and redirect it to match your desire. You can speak from the end, from fulfillment, from the assumption that your desire is already accomplished. And if you make that choice, if you discipline your inner speech day after day, night after night, I promise you, your world will transform. Not someday, not eventually, but inevitably, certainly, as night follows day. So go now from this place with a new understanding. Observe your inner speech. Become aware of what you are saying to yourself every moment. And when you catch yourself speaking from limitation, from fear, from doubt, simply redirect. Choose to speak from fulfillment. Choose to speak as the one who has what you desire. Choose to speak from the end, and persist in this choice. Make it habitual, make it natural, make it who you are. And as you do this, as you discipline your inner speech to match the wish fulfilled, you will begin to see your world transform. Not because you are making something happen through effort or force, but because you are allowing what is already true in consciousness to manifest in form. You are simply bringing the inner and the outer into alignment. And when they align, when your inner speech and your outer world match, you will know peace. You will know power. You will know the truth of your own divine nature. Consider this moment right now. This is your turning point. This is where everything changes. Not because I have given you some magical formula, but because you now understand the truth. You understand that you have been creating your reality all along through your inner speech, and now you can create consciously, deliberately, beautifully. The power has always been yours. You simply did not know how to use it. But now you know. And knowing, you cannot unknow. You cannot go back to sleep. You have been awakened to your own creative power. Think of the desire you hold in your heart right now. Whatever it is, health, wealth, love, success, peace, freedom, it is already yours in consciousness. It is already accomplished in the realm where all things exist. The only thing standing between you and the manifestation of that desire is your inner speech. If your inner speech matches the fulfilled desire, manifestation is certain. If your inner speech contradicts the desire, manifestation is impossible. It is that simple. It is that absolute. Change your inner speech and you change your destiny. And I want to tell you something else. This teaching, this truth about inner speech, it is not just about getting what you want. It is about discovering who you are. You are not the limited person you have believed yourself to be. You are not the victim of circumstance. You are not at the mercy of the world. You are the creator of your experience. You are consciousness itself, assuming different states, creating different realities through your assumptions. And when you truly grasp this, when you truly know this, in the depth of your being, everything changes. You no longer beg or plead or hope. You simply assume and command. You speak from fulfillment, and fulfillment must manifest. So tonight, before you sleep, make a covenant with yourself. Decide that from this moment forward, you will be the master of your inner speech. You will no longer allow it to run unconsciously, creating by default. You will observe it, direct it, shape it to match your deepest desires and highest vision for your life. This is not easy. It requires vigilance, discipline, persistence, but it is worth it. Because the alternative is to continue creating unconsciously, to continue experiencing the same limitations, the same disappointments, the same unfulfilled desires. And know this, you do not have to be perfect. You will slip. You will catch yourself in the old inner speech sometimes. That is natural. That is human. Do not condemn yourself when it happens. Simply redirect. Choose again. The practice is not about perfection. It is about persistence, about returning again and again to the inner speech of fulfillment. Each time you redirect, you are strengthening the new pattern. Each time you choose consciously, you are weakening the old habit, and over time, the new way becomes natural, automatic, effortless. If what you have heard tonight resonates with you, if you feel the truth of it in your bones, then act on it. Do not just hear these words and then return to your old ways. Be a doer of the word, not a hearer only. Take what you have learned and apply it tonight. Before you sleep, construct your sentence. Enter the drowsy state. Repeat your sentence with feeling. Imagine the wish fulfilled. Fall asleep in that state. And tomorrow, watch your inner speech. Redirect it when necessary. Speak from the end. Practice the mental conversations of fulfillment. And do this day after day, night after night, until it becomes effortless, until it becomes you. And if you wish to continue this journey, if you want to go deeper into these teachings, then stay connected. Subscribe so that you receive more of these revelations. And share in the comments below what inner speech you will now adopt, what sentence you have constructed, what state you are claiming as your own. Let your declaration be public. Let it be a commitment to yourself and to this truth, because when you speak it, even in writing, you are decreasing its power. You are making it real. But whether you share or not, whether you subscribe or not, the truth remains the same. Your inner speech is creating your world. It always has been. It always will be. The only question is whether you will do it consciously or unconsciously, whether you will create by choice or by default. I have shown you the way of conscious creation. I have given you the key. Now it is yours to use. Remember this. Consciousness is the only reality. What you are conscious of being, you are. And you become conscious through your inner speech, through the words you speak to yourself, through the mental conversations that fill your day and night. Change those conversations and you change everything. This is not theory. This is not philosophy. This is the way life works. This is the creative process. This is the law of consciousness. So speak to yourself from the state of the wish fulfilled. Speak as God speaks, from the place of accomplishment, from the Sabbath rest where all is finished. And your word shall not return void. It shall accomplish exactly what you desire. The unseen world, the world of infinite possibility, the world where all things exist in potential, will rush forward to obey your command. Not because you are special, not because you have earned it, but because this is law. This is how consciousness operates. You are the creator, and your inner speech is the creative act. Go now and decree a thing, and it shall be established unto you. Speak to yourself as one who has, as one who is, as one who lives in the fulfilled desire, and watch your world transform before your eyes. This is my promise to you. This is the truth I have shared, and this truth will set you free. You are not limited by your past. You are not bound by circumstances. You are not at the mercy of other people or external forces. You are free. You have always been free. You simply did not know it. But now you know. Now you understand. Your inner speech is your power. Your consciousness is your kingdom. And what you decree in consciousness must manifest in experience. So tonight, before you sleep, enter into your creative power. Claim your desire through your inner speech. Feel it as already accomplished. Live in the end. And tomorrow, continue. And the next day. And the day after that. Make this your life. Make conscious creation your way of being, and you will never again feel powerless. You will never again feel like a victim. You will know yourself as the creator you truly are, and your life will reflect that knowing in every beautiful detail. This is my gift to you. This is the teaching I have been sent to deliver. Your inner speech is the word of God going forth, and that word shall not return void. It shall accomplish, it shall prosper, it shall manifest. Believe it, know it, live it, and be free.